Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the backward-looking question, which I mentioned before, which is to take me back to a year ago, pretty much today, so September 2023. The league was just starting up. There were no names, no logos, and lots of naysayers who were proclaiming that maybe the PWHL wasn't going to last in the same way that the other leagues before it hadn't lasted. So what were you feeling in that moment? What were you thinking in that moment?
I think I was feeling optimistic, but also quite nervous. So for me at that point in time, I was one of the original players that got to sign previous to the draft. So before the draft happened, each team was able to sign 3 players. So I was one of those players who already knew that I was going to be in Toronto. So for me during that time, I don't think my nerves were necessarily as elevated as a lot of the other girls who were entering the draft and unsure of where they would end up. But I think as a player, it was a nerve-wracking time because we had waited so long for a league to kind of fall into place and for one to be set up in a very professional way. And it felt like it was kind of here, but at the same time, it also felt like, okay, we need to wait and see if this is too good to be true or if it's going to be everything we imagined. And looking back now, I can say how fortunate we are to have this league to play in and that my expectations as a player were certainly exceeded.
And is the too good to be true thing true for both of you as well? Sarah, you were working behind the scenes to make the league what it has become as well. So can you tell me a bit about that coming to fruition, really?
Yeah. I was privileged enough to be able to work with the investment group from pretty much day one. And so we understood that our intentions both aligned, our values aligned very much so, and we wanted to put professional women's hockey on the map globally. And so I knew what their vision was, but as a player, stepping away from the business side, all we had to hold on to was, I'm playing professional hockey in Toronto. We don't have a rink, we don't have a name.
Yeah.
We have a team and a coach and a GM, basically. And it was on us, on the general managers, and on the league to figure everything else out. And they said, we're dropping the puck on January 1. And that was the only piece of light, I guess, we had to hold on to. And we had to put a lot of trust, a lot of faith in people behind the scenes who did amazing work. We were a startup, and we turned an entire professional sports league around in 6 to 8 months. Like, that's unheard of. And so the fact that we were able to do that, I'm so proud of everybody who put in all that work.
Did you expect it to turn out the way that it has?
I don't know. I mean, I had definitely high hopes. I think the 4 years leading up to it were tough. We were, on the Dream Gap tour, showcasing our game, proving really to the world that there's a market for women's hockey and people want to watch us. People, want to watch our sport. But then it, like Sarah said, it came together so fast that we were like, what is it going to look like when we hit the ice? Is it going to be the standards we set? Are we going to get the fans in the seats? And yeah, on that first game, I think I've never felt so much electricity going through my body when Billie Jean came out to drop that puck, and knowing that we were here and it was happening and the stands were full. People were supporting our team and supporting the league. So yeah, it was bigger and better than I think we ever imagined, and a crazy journey to get there. But I think the way that last year went and the momentum that we have and the momentum we've created for women's sports in general, I think has been amazing and one that we wouldn't trade for anything.
And do you ever have a I told you so feeling? You're like, I want to say I told you so to all of the people who said this wasn't going to work out.
For sure. I mean, I think back to, I came out of university in 2012 and, every game, every year, it felt like you were putting yourself out there to just prove to people like, hey, we're here, come watch us. Like, you'll be surprised just how fast and how skilled the women's game has got now. And it just felt like every year it was like maybe a little bit of movement, but not, enough to make waves. And finally, it felt like everything did come together and we were able to make that huge push and people bought in, fans bought in. It was the most amazing thing, to see not only the little girls, but the little boys, but also, the ladies that maybe didn't have the chance to play in a league like this that wanted to. And I've always thought that as players, we've been really able to put ourselves out there and to connect with fans. And I think that will only help our sport more. I think, as female hockey players, we're accessible and we were able to connect with the fans and create an amazing community in Toronto around it. And yeah, I think it's been just an amazing year, and I can't wait for the next year and next season.
You mentioned little boys, so there's a lot of talk around your fan base. When you go to a PWHL game, and Paul and I were talking about this earlier, it's so different from an NHL crowd, and it's also different from previous leagues, women's leagues. Like, we're accustomed to seeing, or I'm accustomed to seeing, little girls or queer women, like fan bases that have kept different leagues going over time. And when you go to a PWHL game, the fans are so diverse. There's a real cross-section of people. So do you have little boys coming up to you? Do you have like unexpected kind of interactions with fans that have surprised you over the past year?
All the time, really. Especially in a city like Toronto, like this is such a hockey hotbed, and hockey is huge here. And so we're on major sports networks. Like, if you're watching a TSN, a CBC, a Sportsnet, like, we are on TV. And so we've been able to reach so many different people. And so being here, like, we'll be on the streets, we'll be in a store, like, we're in a hockey arena, we get approached all the time, and people want to talk hockey with us. It's not just like, oh, you're doing amazing work, like, thank you so much. Like, no, people are like, you guys are really good. What do you think about this? Your power play needs to do better, which I think is so cool, because we've never ever had that. And I think when you talk about the diverse communities that we attract in the women's game, I think we've always thought of ourselves as a bridge to that gap. Hockey's been a bit of an unwelcoming space, not very diverse space for a very long time, and we've always felt that we were able to bridge that gap, that people come to our games and they feel so welcome and so included, that they can be themselves, that they can watch amazing hockey and support players that they love. And so I think that that's a really beautiful part of our game that we've been able to bring.
Are there examples of fan interactions that you've had? When we got to the idea of like anecdotes, have you had a moment with a fan that has stuck with you over the past year?
There's been so many. Like, these two get it everywhere we go. There's people lining up for their pictures and autographs, and it's happened for many of us. I think anytime we're in a rink, there's people, boys, girls, parents, whoever, they recognize who we are, and they want to get a photo with us. They want us to sign a stick or a jersey. That stuff's really cool. And recently I was getting groceries at a little store in my neighborhood, and a man and his son came up to me and said, "Hey, are you Blayre Turnbull?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, you're my son's favorite hockey player." And he didn't just mean in the PWHL, he meant favorite hockey player, NHL, OHL, PWHL. So things like that are starting to happen, and it's really cool to be a part of that.
For me, I don't know. I mean, I've had many fan interactions.
Or any conversation really about your
I
game.
think like something that has been really cool for me to see is I have a son who's almost 2, and now whenever he sees a hockey player, he just thinks it's mama. Like, he like points to it. And so like, it's pretty crazy that he's probably gonna grow up, thinking more that females play hockey, and he's gonna know that, but also he's gonna grow up in a world where there was always professional women's hockey. It was never not an option for his classmate to play hockey when she got older, which I think is something that's so special, and I think really cool to just see how he's, able to watch us and be inspired by so many amazing female aunties.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm trying to think of one that like sticks out to me.
At the gym, when you were about to do your
Oh my
chin-up
God. Yeah.
We've had Sarah Nurse fans sneak into the gym during fitness testing.
We work out in Burlington, and we work out upstairs to like a public rink. And so they had like 4-on-4 little leagues going on, and so there's a window and you can see in, and so the girls were playing and they're all waving to us as we're upstairs and we're doing fitness testing, and we're doing chin-ups, and like, it's a big deal, you got to be good, right? And so I'm approaching the chin-up bar, I'm hanging there, and all of a sudden these group of little girls run in and go, "Hi, Sarah Nurse," like
She's like
I'm
hanging
hanging
off the
like
chin-up
this,
bar.
and I was like,
Past the reception desk.
I was like, "How did you guys get in here?" But okay, but no,
Like,
it's
Sarah Nurse
great.
is at work.
100%.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm a
exactly.
little busy right now, but it's very sweet. Like, they want to take any chance, any opportunity they get to be able to see and meet you. I mean, like, even today, meeting the young girls who were with us on the shoot, like, were so sweet, and they got to miss school to come and meet us, and it was a pretty big day. So
A very big day.
A
One of them
very
woke
big
up
day.
very early today. She's very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is which reason would you attribute? There are many, but what's the reason that stands out for the sea change in attitudes towards women's hockey over the past year? Like, obviously, there have been years you've all been working up towards this in your own lives and as larger groups, but there's just been an appetite for it in the past year that really, I think, has exceeded some people's expectations, maybe not yours, but some people's. What do you think? What can we attribute that to? Like, why now?
I think a huge part of that is because our games are televised now. So, and if they're not televised on a major TV channel, they're available to watch on YouTube. So I think more people have access to watch us play, which means more people are watching us and seeing our skill and our speed and our physicality as well. And I think that's definitely turned some heads and drawn some good attention. I think people who have been so dismissive of women's sports and our athletic pursuits in the past now have less to talk about and complain about because we've gotten so much support. And I just think there's less of a spot for the naysayers now. I think a big thing is because we get to play so many games that are televised. So people are watching us and understanding the quality of play and kind of understanding how much work goes into our craft.
Yeah, I think similarly, like I've been told so many times that women's hockey is great, but there's no real market for it unless it's like a Team Canada, Team USA game, unless there's national pride behind it. And so I think this past season, like a really proud moment for me was when we sold out Scotiabank and then we sold out the Bell Center.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm not correct, that was like the highest attended women's hockey game in North America, I believe, ever. So
ever.
that surpassed a Team Canada, Team USA game. And for me, that was a moment that was like, you know what, like professional hockey's, women's hockey's here, and it's like here to stay, and there's a market for it, and people want to come and watch us. And I think that was like a huge moment for me that I was like, no, we're here. I think previously to this season, like we made a lot of noise. Like we told people that we are here, that we exist, and that we want to be able to show ourselves. And so when we finally got the opportunity on January 1st, it was like a put up or shut up moment where we were like, we're going to show you what we can do. And now being finally given that opportunity, I think that it exceeded everybody's expectations. I think we're hopefully optimistic, but it really did exceed all expectations.
You called everyone's bluff, really. And you got to break a lot of hearts with the overtime goal in Montreal.
We did.
You guys, Montreal just like
that was the nail in the coffin.
Demolished. How did that feel? How was that game? Hugely attended in like, the space that has been owned by, men, the NHL for so long, and going in there and then beating Montreal. Big day.
Big day.
night.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was so loud in there. I remember Blayre turning to me and being like, I don't think my ears are going to be okay after
Yeah, I
this
know.
game. Like it was.
I was
so
on the
bad.
bench covering my ears at certain points because they put like the sound meter on during the TV breaks, and it was so loud.
It exceeded safety vision.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure,
so.
for sure.
We skated on the ice and we got booed.
Yeah, which was
And-
also
which
fun.
was
It
amazing.
was fun.
Also-
Yeah, like that
It's
team
fun to be the
rivalry.
enemy sometimes.
100%. Yeah, it was cool.
I'm from Montreal and have roots in Toronto, so you can imagine that whenever I see both teams play,
Oh, you're
it's like-
torn.
I am torn.
Internal conflict.
Cannot run that though.
You got to pick one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god.
On the spot.
The moment has come, my family. At what moment did you realize that the league, that the PWHL had a future? Was there a moment in time when you thought this is crystallizing for me? Was it, for example, the Bell Center, getting into the playoffs? Was it speaking to or interacting with your kid? Was it, is there a moment where you thought, oh yeah, for real?
I think for me, I mean, our home opener was amazing, but I think when we were going to go play at Scotiabank and we sold out the rink in less than a day, which was like quicker than the WNBA game coming to Toronto, like it was so fast and like people were scavenging to find tickets. I think like that was the moment in my head when I was like, wow, like we've made it, like people are trying so hard to get our ticket, and now we're in a huge rink, like we can sell out these huge arenas. And that was kind of the moment for me that I'm like, wow, we're doing this, and like we're here to stay, and people are bought into us, people want to cheer us on, and we had the best fans in Toronto.
And now you're moving to a bigger, sort of more permanent space for the second season. So how does that feel to have a home base lots more fans who can come watch your games.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's a much needed change, I think, for us. We outgrew our home last year, but going off of what Spooner just mentioned, a big moment for me last year was the demand for our tickets and how that demand just increased as the season went on. People had a really hard time getting tickets to our games. And then this upcoming season, for us to be playing in a bigger venue and for our season ticket packages to be sold out already,
Right.
it's fantastic. And I think it goes to show that year 2 might be even bigger and better than year 1.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers say that it will be.
Seeing how we were able to sell out Coca-Cola last year for playoffs, like it kind of set that stage. And I think that it proved to, you know, not only us, but everybody surrounding us who didn't really think that we could do that. And, you know, we're going to be able to find, you know, a more permanent home at Coca-Cola. And so I think that's really special to be in an arena that, again, like gives that professional ambiance. And I think it's going to be huge for us, and it's an opportunity for us to expand and elevate. It's going to be fun. The in-game experience is going to be really, really awesome. And so, yeah, it's just going to be a much-needed step.
What was the toughest part of the past year? Because we talked about there must have been many moments of elation, but it's a startup. So startups have growing pains. They have disappointments, challenges. What would you say was one of the moments in this past year that you thought of, maybe this is a bit harder than I thought, or maybe this isn't living up to a particular expectation that I might have had?
I think I went into it pretty open-minded, that I was like, I kind of expected that there could be some hiccups, but at the same time, I felt like every single time if there was like a little hiccup, it got fixed. And I think like we turned it around, that like also as players, we maybe never even saw the hiccups, right? So I think like probably as players, the biggest challenge was that we were finally playing a regular season, which we hadn't in years. Like we had been playing on the weekends, or we had been playing, you know, random games and showcases. So it was to get that schedule and make sure that, you know, it was just a different schedule than we weren't used to. And now we were professionals. We were getting to do this as a career. And it just kind of changes your mindset a bit, and it changes kind of how you approach the game and how you go into it. So I think, yeah, well, for me, especially, I guess, coming back post-pregnancy, it was just like, how am I going to handle this schedule? How am I going to make it work and balance it all?
Was it tough to figure that out?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of help and a lot of support, luckily,
Yeah.
to make it work, because if not, I don't know how I would have.
Well, because ultimately it's also a job. Like you're entering into a full-time job, and it comes with all of the things that full-time jobs come with, I imagine.
Yeah. I think I will say too, like Spooner handled being a mother and also a professional athlete with such grace. Like showed up to the arena every day, and you wouldn't 100% like performed and was an incredible teammate and leader. So that shouldn't be overlooked for sure.
Yeah.
You had a pretty good season.
Yeah.
I had a great teammate.
Do you find, and we'll get to the broader questions also about, you know, mentoring young girls, but motherhood, and how do you balance those things? You know, these are questions that obviously male players don't get. Are you fatigued by these questions about mentoring young girls, about balancing motherhood and playing? Like, do you want to deflect them and say, I want to talk about my stats, I want to talk about the quality of my game?
I think it's good to have a balance, because I think if people don't hear our stories, hear, you know, how I'm balancing motherhood, how Sarah's balancing everything that she's doing, like how is that going to then inspire the next person to be able to feel that they can achieve all that too? So I think in a sense it is important for us to share those stories and share how we got to where we are and how we're able to do what we do. You know, we always said like you need to see it to believe it, to dream it. And I think it's kind of along those sense. But also, we're hockey players and we love to talk hockey, so we'd be willing to talk hockey at any point. But I do think it is important to share our story and get it out there and help inspire the next generation. Or, you know, for me now, if it's inspiring the next mom to feel that she can go back to work and conquer work, whatever it is, I think that's pretty cool too.
I agree. I think for so long, we've been asked about why, like what's our why? Why do we keep pushing for a league? And why do we have certain expectations and standards, and for so long our answer has always been it's for the next generation. So a big part of how we were raised and a lot of teams that we've played on, it's all about leaving a footprint and making sure that the space you leave is better than when you found it. And I feel for so long that's been our inspiration and our why. And now part of our why is because I want to be a hockey player myself. So we do so much as a group and individually as well to inspire the next generation and to make sure that those girls will be set up to play in a successful league. But on the flip side, we only have so much time left in our careers where I want to be a professional hockey player, and I know I can only do that for a few more years. So sometimes it is fun to focus on hockey.
Of course, you want to enjoy it while you're there.
Yeah.
And I imagine get better, improve, and all of those things. In the spirit of that, what are your favorite moments on ice? Like, where's the moment where you thought, I am so good at my job?
Oh, God.
I wonder.
I'm asking you guys about your game. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, for you, it has to be that one goal you got
Which one?
at Mattamy when
At
you
Mat-
came out of the
yeah, okay,
corner,
I was just gonna say
turned.
that.
Like,
So-
that was just like dominant.
I think that was a really fun one for me. So we had our last regular season game at Mattamy, I think, against Ottawa, and I had actually broken my finger like 2 days before, and so like I was trying to battle that as well. And you know what? I just had a great face-off, made a great play, and I ended up scoring. And I was like, I just did that with a broken finger. Like, I'm like pretty good.
In a game
And
that
so-
was really
in a
important
game
for
that
us
was
to
very
win.
important. And so that was like a tap on the shoulder, kind of like that felt nice, you know. And it was a big goal for the girls, and everyone was pretty excited.
Sure.
I feel like that whole game, I really
Spooner
liked
had
that
those
game.
moments every game.
No, but
Honestly.
the final game, I feel like, I don't know, we were like just chatting, and then it wasn't even like a nice goal, like the goal that I scored, but it kind of put us in the lead, and then we were going to beat Ottawa. And I remember we just got to the bench, and Nursey just looked at me, she's like, 20! And like we just started like bouncing up and down on the bench, and we just like celebrated.
20 goals.
Yeah. And we were just like, what? She's like, she comes over, she's like, what? How did we get here?
How did you get 20 goals?
Yeah.
Like,
How did we do this?
That's amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
yeah.
How about you?
For me, like a huge part of my game is playing a strong defensive role as a forward. So something that I get really pumped about is when I get sent on the ice to play a shutdown role against another team's top line. And we've played in a lot of tight games, a lot of games where, you know, if the other team scores, we're going to go into overtime. And based on the point system, you really don't want the game to go into overtime because you don't get the full points that you would for a win. So there were a lot of moments down the stretch where we were on our winning streak in tight games or close to playoffs where we knew we needed to win in regulation to secure home ice, and I would be sent on for those moments to make sure that the other team didn't get scoring chances. So those moments are big for me, and they make me feel excited and really proud of what I bring as a hockey player.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of trust and faith.
As your captain.
100%. 100%.
How does this all compare to the Olympics? You're all Olympians, so I imagine that comes with its own stressors and joys and excitement. How did the two compare?
Tough comparison. Like, I feel like the Olympics are such a short-term tournament. I mean, we're together, we have been in the past together before leading up to it, but there's not really like, it's so short-term that it's like you peak for, you know, a month. And so by the finals, if you lose, you've lost. Whereas I feel like in the season, like if you look back on our season, like we had a tough start. If we would have had that at the Olympics, we would not have been around at the Olympics. So I think in a sense, you can approach them in different ways. You know, both you go through hardships with the team, they bring you closer. But I mean, in Toronto, we're together every single day, playing way more games, but also being able to work through all those things. So yeah, the Olympics, I mean, you feel so much pride representing your country and so much honor, but to be able to play in the first ever PWHL season, that was pretty special. You know, to be able to win the regular season was amazing, and obviously not the ending we wanted with the Walter Cup, but I think as Toronto, as a team as a whole, we really made a mark for ourselves and can kind of carry that legacy through year after year, whereas the Olympics are only every 4 years.
Going back to that first game on January 1st, I would say the hype, the media coverage, and the noise surrounding that game felt like the Olympics. Going into that game, there were cameras everywhere, reporters everywhere, everybody wanted to talk to us. And I was overwhelmed before that game.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't the Olympics because, poof.
Yeah, and I don't think I was prepared for that. Like when you go to an Olympics, you're very prepared for it to be huge, but I don't think I was prepared for it to be as massive as it was.
Right, the mental game wasn't the same.
Yes, I'll say on the ice, because the competition level is so high in our league and it is so good, it almost feels like a gold medal game every time you step on the ice. Like that's like the intensity that things are played with. And so I think those are the comparisons that make sense in my head.
Yeah, I feel like they're two completely different things, but at the core they're very similar. Like the intensity of the games it's like every regular season game felt like a very important game at a world championship.
Yes.
The level, like the speed at which we play at now, the physicality in our league, it's right on par with a Canada-US game a lot of the time. I think just like you said, the preparation is just a little bit different because you go through an entire season with the team and like every game in that season matters, whereas when you prep for the Olympics in the past, we would centralize as a team and every game we played we knew was just a stepping stone to help us prep for the Olympics. So if we lost 8-0 to a junior A team, it wasn't the end of the world. It was just we needed to work on things and make sure that we weren't losing 8-0 again. But yeah, I don't know. I like the passion is the same too. Like we care so much about our team in Toronto. It feels very similar to how we feel when we get to represent Canada.
A lot of pride.
A lot of pride.
Like I don't like when people tell me that they cheer for Montreal. Or
I
told
you, split allegiance. I'm very torn. It's biology, Sarah. I can't help it.
We're gonna see the rivalries come out more. Though.
Yeah,
So it's just gonna get more and more
rivalries.
exciting.
The rivalries are
So
there
this is
and
another
they're
thing I
annoying.
noticed on when you're, in the stands with the fans and you're watching, and people are very competitive, have their favorite players, absolutely boo, heckle, so on and so forth. But there's also like a congeniality between the fans. I had this amazing conversation with a woman from Boston and ended up that her daughter was one of the players and she was like, oh, I don't like your player does this. But at the same time, she was like, she's so good though. Like there's an acknowledgement and an excitement around what is happening that feels like there's a kindness to it, even when it's like fiercely competitive. Do you feel that yourselves, or do you feel that there's like an encouragement that crosses sort of team lines or city lines, or do you just feel like no,
Like
it's
from
Toronto or
a
nothing?
from a fan
From a
perspective.
fan perspective.
Yeah, I feel from a fan perspective, we definitely have people who cheer against our team, but I would say that the fans of each team in this league are so proud of us and so happy that they have a team to cheer for that they can't actually hate a player or hate a team like that passionately.
Yeah, that's the sense I get.
Because the bottom line is that they just feel so much pride. And so happy that we have a league and it's here.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is just like when you think of the history, the last 5 years of women's hockey, like we haven't had teams, and how people have gotten to know women's hockey and been involved in women's hockey is through us as players, as individuals. Whether that's through social media, whether that's us going out to community events, whatever it is. And so they've just gotten to know us all as people. And so now that we're all kind of split off into different teams, you see those alliances starting to build, but they're still fans of us as players, which is really nice. And I just think that that's the interesting piece, that us as players is what's really kept women's hockey alive for a really long time. And now we have an institution that's going to continue to elevate and grow the game.
Do you feel like the pressure's off a little bit from a public-facing representation point of view, because now you have a whole team behind you as opposed to each having to push the sport forward?
I think when our old league folded and we came together like Canada and the US, it felt like we all of a sudden had this we had like a united voice, and there was so many more of us that were pushing in the same direction. And going back, like I think the fans realized that too, that they couldn't just, you're not going to just not cheer on someone else who's just, worked for 4 years to get this league up and running and hope, that it's going to be successful.
To put it delicately, now our job is to be hockey players. And what's most important is our performance on the ice. We're not the ones who are marketing, we're not selling tickets, we are not out and about doing this, that, and the other. Like, we are hockey players, and so our job is to perform, because if we don't perform, there are not going to be butts and seats. But we don't have to deal with everything else. And so I think that is a bit of pressure off. That's a bit of a relief, but then that adds a new layer of pressure, because we have so much visibility, we're everywhere. If you're not performing, like, it's on the news. I remember our first couple of weeks, we had a tough first 6 or 7 games, and I was sitting in my nail salon, and on the news there was just this border that said, in Toronto, PWHL Toronto still looking for just their 2nd win of the season. And I was like, dang, okay. CP24, geez.
You're just trying to get my nails done.
100%. But it's you come under scrutiny, not only the media, but fans too. They want their team to win. And so it's a different type of pressure.
Yeah. You're meeting the same scrutiny that all Toronto sports teams.
100%.
Us,
the
not
Leafs,
again.
the Rap,
they're
we're all
gonna
on the
just
same boat.
dissect us and find out what's wrong with the team, where we're going wrong, and let us know. So it's that type of pressure, and it's a job too now, right? We have to be professionals and approach it that way. And
There's pressure to earn your next contract too.
Exactly.
Which is the same pressure that other professional athletes feel.
Sure.
I do feel like there's an added layer of pressure too, with us being in the media now and more people knowing about who we are. We have more interactions in public where, you have to, it's not like we have to act or put on a good face, but you have to make sure that, you're being respectful everywhere you go, and you're taking time to interact with people who want to interact with you, even when you might be dog tired or in a rush, because, we see online all the time, if you don't take the extra 30 seconds to say hi to someone that wants to see you, then you're going to hear about it online, and you're going to get called a bad person and mean, and how could so-and-so be considered a good role model when, all this stuff happens. So I think for a lot of people, it's very natural to remember those things, but for some, I think now that we're in the spotlight a bit more, there's pressure to be kind of the public figures who many of us aren't used to being in the past.
And do you feel that that's specific to your role within the league, meaning the league is still starting, so you're still conscious of making sure that that you're nurturing that, and that you're putting your best foot forward at all times, your best face forward at all times, and also the fact that you're women and there's a certain expectation of a certain type of behavior off the ice, that is.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on, where there are, I think, different expectations for us as female athletes compared to male athletes when it comes to fan interactions and the time that we give to people who cheer us on and support us. And with that being said, I do believe that most of us understand that it's an honor to be in this position, and we're very privileged and lucky to now have this platform and the visibility that we have. So I'm not saying any of this as a complaint, because it's something that we do take a lot of pride in, but I think there is an added layer of pressure now with more visibility, and I think there's just a bit more responsibility that comes along with that.
Well, so you're allowed to have an off day, right?
We're humans.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing, is we have to be there for each other and remember that we're all humans, and that's what makes a team a team. I'm gonna have a bad day, and Blayre's gonna come make a joke and gonna pick me up, and I'm take a smile and get on with my day, right? So I think it's pretty special that the bond you can create with the girls, and know that maybe it's not your best day, but you got your teammates to lean on and realize they know what you're going through.
Did you have that complicity leading into the first season because you knew each other from the Olympics? You'd played before.
I think there was a good core of us in Toronto who knew each other. We were very familiar, not only playing styles, but off of the ice as well. And I think what we did a really good job at was establishing a culture in Toronto that really brought everybody in. Because although there are, 6 or 7, 8 of us who really, really knew each other, we were still bringing in new players from everywhere. And if we didn't take the time to get to know them, they didn't want to get to know us, it wasn't going to be a good fit, a good match. And I think that's something that, leadership group, our general manager, our head coach, take a lot of pride in, because at the end of the day, even though we did know each other, we're going to be in Toronto playing an entire season with this group of players. We're in a 7-8 month season, and so we have to at least respect each other, get along, and want to see each other succeed.
So we're talking about equity a little bit. We're addressing equity, the difference between how men and women or players are treated differently. So the salary question is obviously a big one. So there's an enormous gulf, really, between the amount of money that NHL players are making and the amount of money that PWHL players are making. The players who've been signed, for multi-year contracts, like the three of you, you're making more than someone in the league. The average salary is like $56,000 US, right? So how do you imagine a world in which you are approaching a higher pay scale? Maybe not. NHL numbers seem like a kind of wild thing to imagine at this point in time, but do you imagine a time where you feel like everyone would be paid what they're worth as players?
For sure. I mean, I think you think about the original 6 in the NHL and where they started, and that was over 100 years ago. And to think to where they are now, I think we're just so excited that we can have a career playing hockey. People can make a livable wage, and obviously, do we want more? Yes, we want it, people to be paid the same as NHL players, but we also have to build that. And I know, it used to be, we used to fight for sponsorship dollars. There was only about 5% of sponsorship dollars going towards female athletes and female sports. And we're seeing that light being shone on female sports now, and a lot of that sponsorship dollars moving over to the female sports side, and that's definitely going to help. The more support we get as a league is only going to help us be able to promote our game, but also eventually grow, whether we expand, whether players are paid more. I think there's way more levels that our league can reach that we're striving for, and it's really just the beginning. So I don't even know if you can quite make the comparison because it's only year one. It's ask us in 50 years where we're at and what the league looks like. But yeah, for year one, I think, we were just so excited that this is a career, this is viable, this is going to be around, and we had the right people in place that we're going to get the job done and make this league happen.
What does being part of the league bring you in terms of, have you noticed a difference in terms of improving your performance? Do you have access to trainers, or, when it comes to figuring out your diet, or, data-driven sort of, is there stuff that comes with being part of a league that you're getting to help
benefits?
Yeah.
Dental insurance.
Healthcare.
Did you say dental insurance?
Dental insurance.
Yeah. I feel like that question always goes hand in hand with the salary question, because people want to talk numbers. It's black and white. It's very easy for people to digest. But when I think about us being a professional hockey player, what can we have at the arena and around that is going to set us up for success, set us up for being the best performers, but also to be able to have a long career. I look at the guys who play in the NHL until they're 40 years old, and it's because they have strength coaches, nutritionists, they have athletic therapy staff, they have all the people around them who enable them to do that. And I think when I look at our group, in Toronto, they put such an incredible staff in place. So we have our full-time strength and conditioning coach. We have a full-time athletic staff, doctors. There are people around us. We have a new mental skills coach who's coming in, which is a huge piece and part of the game now. And so there's so many resources around us that let us focus and really lean into just playing hockey, working on our craft and making it the best that it can possibly be. And I think that's the biggest, yes, we're getting paid now, but that's the biggest step up, is that level of professionalism and really empowering us to be the best players that we can be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was my question, which I imagine that coming with a league means having access to these things that make you a better athlete. Mm-hmm. Is there one piece in particular for each of you that is sort of is it your strength and conditioning coach? Is it having, what is the thing that you thought, oh, this is really going to change things for me?
I think it's, for me, the access to therapy, massage, physiotherapy, athletic therapy. Our GM did a great job of putting together a really professional staff for us in Toronto. So we feel very fortunate that we've got everything we need, and it's so easy for us to get fixed up when we feel we need it. So at any given moment, you can send a text to one of your team staff and they're happy to treat you and help you out and get you on your way. So it's really nice to have those luxuries now.
I guess not luxuries, I guess it's what you deserve as professional
Yeah,
athletes.
but yeah.
And how difficult were they
Call it
to
a luxury based on the past.
So like, how difficult was that to access before?
Before it was hard, especially for the girls who were working full or part-time jobs on the side. We were lucky that we were part of the national team, so our job has always kind of been to play hockey over the past few years. So it was just a matter of trying to find a time that fit in your daily schedule. So it wasn't available at the rink, but if you had time to fit it in sometime later in the afternoon, and if your practitioner was available, then you just schedule your appointment like anybody else
Like a regular person.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, the full package of people together, I think, has worked like a well-oiled machine. When I think about being a hockey player, you put your body on the line every single night. And recovery was such a huge piece for us, not only because we're playing, but because we're traveling so much. And so we have a lot of smart people in our organization who have found different, unique ways so that we can recover and be ready to go when we need to be. And I think that's probably the biggest difference for me is like, if I was feeling banged up, I just had to like push through it. Like there wasn't anybody around me to be like, oh, you should do this, or let me help you with this, because we just didn't have that. And
You're
so
just figuring it out on your own.
You're figuring it out as you go. Like if I live in Hamilton and my massage therapist is in Toronto, like let me drive an hour to my massage and then drive an hour home.
You're like, that's relaxing.
Yeah,
And also
exactly.
pay out of pocket.
And pay out of
which
pocket.
It's not a huge deal, but
For sure.
not having to do that anymore is,
For sure.
is great.
Yeah, so the convenience factor has also been really, really big.
And so you also each have personal brand sponsorships that extend out of what is happening with the sponsorships. You mentioned the corporate sponsorships for the league. How important is that to help you sustain your game and imagine your career after, these next few years of playing?
I think before I always said, I was so lucky to have amazing partners that allowed me to play hockey and to follow my dreams. Now we do have a career, but I still look at my partners as people who cheer me on every day and make sure that I'm still able to follow my dreams and to do it all in a sense. They've given me a platform, whether it's partnerships that have allowed me to work with charities or have allowed me to meet new people and share my story and inspire people either within the workplace or little girls that are playing hockey, whether it's from my hockey school that I ran before, to them supporting that. Like there's so many different pieces when it comes to sponsors that have supported me, and to be able to build my business and my personal brand. A lot of it has to do with the amazing partners that I've had and helping me on that journey.
I think when I think of like a personal brand, especially for female athletes, it all comes down to connection for me, because when you're willing to put yourself out there, show a little bit of who you are, and really live authentically and genuinely, you end up connecting to the right people. And that's not only like through corporate sponsorship, your partners, where you work with brands whose values really align with yours, but it's also meeting people every single day. So like the biggest fans of us, they connect with us as people. Yeah, they may like what we do on the ice, and they even have more opportunity to love what we do on the ice. But first and foremost, they connected with us as people. And so I think that's been the really cool part about, showing my personality.
Yeah, same. It's been really helpful and fun to be able to partner with certain brands and charities and organizations and feel like you can have an impact outside of who you are as a hockey player. I think it's really important for the faces of our league and for people who might be in the public eye like us a little bit more now, to make sure that we are connecting with the community, whether it be here in Toronto or, for me, my small town of Stellarton in Nova Scotia. I think it's really important for me to make sure that they feel the love that they deserve for all the support that they've shown me over the past number of years.
I think too, like we realize like how grateful and lucky we are to have a platform and have a voice, and for our voices to be able now to be amplified through the PWHL and to be on TV and for people to see us. But I think it's also important, like people see us on the ice and we're behind a cage and they can't really get to know us. So for us to be able to put, like Nursey said, like our personalities and ourselves out there.
Who is most influential on the team, according to you? Does not need to be present company, can be present company.
I mean, it's these two.
Like
it is.
Like in what capacity?
Yeah, like it depends.
It's an open-ended question.
That's tough because I think on any given day, it could be someone different on the team that is like saying, you know, whether they're saying something or performing in a certain way to be influential. Like I would say Blayre is a huge influence in our locker room. Like when she speaks, people listen. You know?
How does it feel to be captain?
It feels great. I think I think the big thing about me becoming captain and being told that I was going to be the captain was that I don't change anything about who I am or how I act or how I treat people, treat my teammates. So for me, it's very natural, I think, to lead. I think maybe last year was a bit of a learning experience where I've been an assistant captain with the national team for a while now, but I think wearing a C is a bit more of a responsibility. So especially on a new team where you don't know all your teammates that well. But I will say the best part about being the captain of this team in Toronto is that it's not a one-person job. I'm just the lucky person that gets to wear a C on my jersey. But if I don't have the help of my teammates and the other leaders on the team, then our team won't be as successful as it was in the past. So I'm very lucky in that way.
And why do you think, Sarah, the two of them are the most influential?
Well,
Because you guys are just saying each other, which is cheating, but that's
no,
fine.
that's not cheating, because if I was anybody else on the team, I think they would have the same answer as me. But I just if you look at what they've done in the communities and how impactful they've been, I think it's a no-brainer to choose them as the most influential.
Well, we chose the three of you, so technically
Yeah.
we got it right, I guess.
Well,
Sure.
And to me, it's not just about them having such a presence on social media or having a bunch of sponsors and stuff like that. It's about them being their authentic selves in everything that they do. And I think it's really cool to have teammates who are put in the spotlight and given a platform, and for them to not change who they are with any of that is really cool.
Do you feel like being in the spotlight more has changed you, or do you feel like it seems...
Like you're still Sarah Nurse that I knew when we went to Wisconsin together. And you're still Natalie Spooner, who
I always tell people I'm
knew
cool
so long
online
ago.
until you meet me.
No, you're the same. I don't know. It's cool.
Really not that cool.
Do you remember first meeting each other?
Spoons, we would have met at Four Nations, I think, or September camp before that, but
Yeah.
that was right after you guys finished in Sochi at the Olympics.
So 2015.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the fall of 2014.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, we were still kind of in that phase where we idolized all of you guys so much.
I remember I was Spooner's line mate at this one little event. You probably don't even remember. But I was like, why am I playing with Natalie Spooner? Yeah, I remember that. And then I remember the story you told me about how when I was centralized in 2018.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And she was like, why is this girl here?
At first I was like, what is happening? And you had been injured and then you came back and they were and I remember you just being like, just tell me where to go.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to go. And I was like, okay, okay, we're just playing hockey. Yeah. And then she was so good. Then you were so good.
We figured it out. Yeah.
So she's just building, you were managing expectations.
100%. I was like, set the bar low.
Yeah.
We're going to exceed it. Yeah. No, I think even to Blayre's point too, I met Blayre, I was a freshman at Wisconsin and she was an upperclassman. And I feel like from the first week that I met her, she was the leader. She wasn't a senior that year, but she was a leader on that team. And so from when I first met Blayre, that's the person that I know and still stands to this day.
So what does influence mean then for all of you? What does that stand for? It means a quiet, confident leadership. It means being able to step into the spotlight. What does it mean?
I think it's being able to have an impact in different ways when needed. I think of like these two are both leaders in very different ways. And I think that I lean on both of them at different times and for different things.
How would you describe their leadership?
I think Spooner is somebody that really calms me down. She's somebody that I will go to and be like, if I'm feel myself getting up here, I'm like, I look at her and she's like laughing and dancing and keeping things light, reminding me that I'm pretty. Like that's
You're so pretty.
That's how it goes. And I feel like her and I, we like talk game a lot and we've played together for a lot of years. And so I feel like she's somebody that I really lean on for that. And then Blayre is like, how do you think I'm doing? You know, and she's somebody that if I need like a very rational, unbiased opinion, like I would go to Blayre. And so I think that these two I need at different times, and they both seem to find their way in my life just when I need them.
And what would you guys say about Sarah?
Shoot, only nice.
I feel like you provide similar leadership and guidance for me. Like our conversations are always about improving and honesty and how we can have more of an impact in different areas of hockey, life in general. I feel like our friendship and relationship as teammates is very honest, and I think it's always been that way.
We're very direct with each other. Like, it's not like, hi, how are you? It's like, I got this today.
It's a relationship that can be that way because we really trust each other and we really care about each other. So I think we're really lucky to have each other as friends, and same with you. I feel the same about you. Like, I trust and value your opinion so much, and I know that you'll always be honest with me and tell me not what I need to hear, but maybe what I should hear. And I think those type of relationships are the ones that really propel you forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like me and Sarah have got to play together so many times, so I just value everything she has to say to me when we're line mates, but we're also able to take that and spin it and keep it light and like have so much fun, because I think like we each play our best too when we're keeping it light. And I think she realizes when I'm getting a little bit too intense, or you know, if she's getting too intense, like we can really lean on each other that way. And I can kind of follow her energy in that sense too if my energy's down. So I think like we've kind of built that relationship by getting to play together, and it's been amazing. I mean, I love playing with her and hope I can play with her more. And then with Blayre, I mean, Blayre is probably like one of the hardest working people, and so she's not hard to follow. Like if she's out on the ice, like you know she's giving it her 100%, and she's gonna be her harshest critic too. And so I think like in that sense, I know that she's going to give it to me how I should be hearing it, and let me know if I'm not, you know, up to her standard. And I think that that's good for me to hear sometimes, but also I think that, you know, I can kind of tell her like, you're doing great, Blayre. You're doing kind, because I got to play with Blayre too. So I think like we kind of have a good balance there too. It's like totally different than this balance, but in a sense, it's like a balance of like intensity plus a bit of fun, but like you can find that middle ground.
We always say Blayre has one speed.
Yeah.
And it's 150%. We're like, Blayre, slow down. And she's like, okay.
They're like, okay, there's no off button.
Yeah, there's no off button on Blayre.
So the trades started this year going into the second season. Can you imagine a space or a world in which you get traded away from Toronto, and what would that be like?
Really sad.
Yeah, no.
I love this city. Yeah.
I mean, you're both from, like, you're from the GTHA, you're from Scarborough, you're from Hamilton. I'll be specific.
Hamilton. Thank you.
Scarborough, and you're from Nova Scotia. Do you feel like you have made Toronto your own, or it's made you its own?
Yeah, I would feel very weird if I had to become part of a new team. I think Toronto is a team that I want to play for, and I want to finish my hockey career here in Toronto. So
no trades.
no trades, please.
Cross your fingers. Gina? No trades.
That's right. Are you listening? So what makes Toronto the best?
Teammates, the fans. I think we already talked about like our staff is like the best at what they each do, and I think that the the excellence that our team strives for. It makes it fun to come to the rink every day. I just think we have such a great group that I couldn't imagine leaving. Like the amount of fun that we were able to have last season, and it to be our first season, and maybe everything didn't go smooth, but like we still stuck together. I think there's only like growth from there. So I think there's so much excitement and potential around our team. We just have a great group that we can keep building off of.
The city's amazing. Like I grew up in Hamilton, so not too far, but being able to live here, be here, experience the food, the culture, and the people, and then to see who comes out to our games, I just feel like our fan base is just so representative of what Toronto is. There's so many different elements of this city, and it's like one of the most iconic cities, like I think in not only North America but the world. And so to be able to say that you're a professional athlete who plays on a Toronto sports team like that is really, really special.
How excited are you guys for, because soon you won't be the only professional women's league. You've got soccer coming, then you have basketball. What do you think of that? How
it's exciting.
You're the first, but not the last, which is a nice
We set the stage
change
for them. Yeah, I think obviously, like we set the stage that now, our games are selling out. And I think as athletes, we're going to be excited to be able to go watch the women's soccer and the women's basketball, but also for them to be able to see, that the market for women's sports there is in Toronto and that people love it. And I think it's just going to help grow our city and make our city, the best sports city in the world. I think, we've already have such amazing sports teams, but to be able to keep growing that portfolio in Toronto, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited. Being able to kind of set the bar and like lay the groundwork for professional women's sports in the city, I think is really special. And we had an opportunity, and I think we've been knocking it out of the park. And so I'm so excited to welcome those groups into the city, because there's such a huge gap. Like people want to see professional women's sports, and to, like Spooner said, add to the portfolio of the iconic franchises here. I think it's going to be pretty amazing.
What advice do you have for the players coming in who are going to be the first of their groups in Toronto?
Embrace it all. Like just take it as it comes. Like I think, like eventually, I think it's going to be Toronto may be a harder market to play in the more media coverage we get, but it's also the best market to play in. I mean, for me, it's home. For others, they make it their home, and I think that they'll see that. But just embrace it and have so much fun with it. Get to experience the city, and I think hopefully they come out and watch our games too. We'll go watch their games, and we can have a little friendship.
Interleague friendship.
Yeah.
You guys can, maybe you can go one-on-one. Be like, you can come play hockey against us. You guys, would you want to play soccer or basketball?
I'm trying to get my cousin to come play for WNBA Toronto.
I mean, she
so
has to.
What do you think that would be like?
I'm hoping she comes home 2026.
That's a given.
Have you ever
I
played basketball with Kia, like against her, and has she ever played hockey against you?
So she hasn't laced up the skates, and I think she's scared. But I used to play basketball with Kia, kind of ish, and we would do like basketball camps and stuff together, and she would always be like number one and I'd be like a far number two, but she was always so good. And so she's a little bit taller than me too. I think I'd be scared to actually go one-on-one against her. She's a beast.
Like, it sounds like she should like get it together and
hey, I think the contracts are gonna align. I think 2026. Yeah, I think it's gonna work out.
And what are your hopes for the PWHL specifically going forward? Other than that, it continues. I mean, that goes without saying. But is there something you'd really like? Is there a brass ring that you're reaching for?
I think expansion. Get some teams in areas that, I'm thinking of Halifax, where they don't have professional sports.
Just randomly Halifax,
yeah,
for
just
example.
for a city that pops into my head.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say
You're still not leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that'll be long after my playing days are over.
What is that something that you can imagine having wanted as a kid? Is that why? Like, you think of Halifax?
Totally. As a kid, I thought I could play in the NHL as a kid, to be honest. So, having an NHL team in Halifax would be sweet.
What happened when you found out you couldn't play in the NHL?
Then I wanted to play in the Olympics. Yeah. but yeah, I think when I was a kid, I loved watching any type of hockey. So whether it be the Halifax Mooseheads, which is the junior team, or my cousins or neighbors who were older than me played Bantam AAA, watching those games was always exciting. So as a kid, having the chance to watch any high-level sport is amazing. And I just know that a team in Halifax would be great for the community, but for the young girls too. I know this past summer, myself and Jill Sonia, who plays on the PWHL New York team, the Sirens, we did a camp in Nova Scotia and our registration sold out in 3 minutes. So I just know that there's an appetite for sports out there. And yeah, my hopes for this league is that it expands. And I don't know when that'll happen, but.
Sounds like you have a post-player plan.
Yeah, maybe. Career out there, yeah, I would take it.
I think for me, something that I think would be very cool, obviously for years and years and years before the PWHL came into existence, you had the NHL, you had the IIHF being like the global leaders in hockey. And I'm really proud of the innovation that the PWHL has brought to hockey, whether that be rule changes, different things, little tweaks within our game. And I just cannot wait until the NHL, IIHF looks at us and says, we like that rule, we're implementing it into our game. Because I know it's gonna happen. So I'm just waiting for that
Jailbreak.
moment.
What do you think it is? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the jailbreak
I
goal
think
will
the
be
jailbreak.
adopted soon.
Yeah,
So good.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be pretty cool because to think of so much history within those organizations, and they're going to be able to look at us and say, wow, they did something here.
Even like body contact.
Yeah.
Like soon the IHF
Is gonna-
should be integrating more body contact because that's how the PWHL operates.
Absolutely, we have the chance to be a global leader.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both really good. I mean, I think in the sense of like expansion, but in a sense of like being able to reach more people, whether that's little hockey girls, little hockey boys, and being able to inspire them. And I think, there was a lot of our games on TV, but eventually it's going to be all of our games on TV, whether that's in a prime time, with all the extras that other sports get. I think, we're showing that we do have the market and the following for that, and people want that. I think in a sense too, there's sometimes around our sport, we want to be very positive. And I think it would be kind of cool when it would be like, oh, they're talking on TV and they're like, Natalie Spooner just sucks today or something, just like when they're just like really bashing you and you're just like, no one would have ever said that before.
Yeah.
But it's like, we've made it,
So you can't wait for like smack talk and heckling.
kind of like just like the smack talk on TV when they're just like really like, because I feel like sometimes we're like so nice about it.
Criticizing
Yeah,
us.
or
Yeah.
people
'Cause that's
like tuning into talk shows just to hear what they have to say about the PWHL players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have like free agency frenzy, like when we have that on TV and all that. Like I think that'll be pretty cool. No trades.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Last question, I guess, is you have a new name. How's it feel? No longer nameless.
Sceptres.
And a lot of merch. This is going to go, it's so much like your season tickets. This is going to be it's a new frenzy. We're talking about frenzy around it. How does it feel to have a brand, like a solid brand?
It feels good. It feels like obviously we've been waiting for this. The fans have wanted this for a long time. But I do think we did the right thing in waiting and making it all, happen when it was supposed to happen. But to have a team identity that we can now rally against in the Toronto Sceptres, when you think of the scepter and the power, the strength, the leadership that someone who gets to hold a scepter has, I think that, we all want to embody that type of power on the ice and that type of excellence. So I think we're pretty excited to be the Toronto Sceptres, and we can't wait to get our new jerseys and get out there for our first game and represent Toronto with pride.
If you couldn't be the Sceptres, which other name would you want?
Queens.
Queens, for sure.
Yeah, Rain.
Rain is nice, but I like that.
I like Majesty too, but
Majesty's nice. Yeah.
So all royal names then.
yeah, I think
We
like
are very royal.
Yeah, Toronto
Yeah.
royalty.
We want it to be called our kingdom. Well, I do.
The what?
Our kingdom. Yeah. That's what I want.
You know what? There's always time for a rebrand a few years down the road. Who knows?
100%.
Or just a third jersey with like a queen on it. With,
I know.
You know. we
Don't
can,
tell
like,
Amy that. Don't tell
Yeah.
Amy. Yeah.
That's perfect. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having us.